Hey guys, Tim here with Cocal Knives, bringing you my very first knife review. The knife that I chose to review first on my channel is the Spyderco Manix 2. The reasoning for that is, out of all the knives in my collection, this is the knife that I've used and carried the most. I've really put a lot of pocket time into this knife, and for good reason. So let's get into that now. We're going to take a look and see what this knife is on paper. So just the technical specs. You're getting a blade length of 3 3/8 inches. Your blade steel is CPM S30V. Your handle length 4 5/8 inches with a weight of 4.9 ounces. Blade thickness, at the thickest stock you're running 3 millimeters. Handle material is G10 and stainless steel liners. Those liners are not skeletonized at all, by the way. I'll get into that in a little. Blade shape is technically a drop point, but it's more so that leaf blade that Spyderco often uses. Lock type is the Spyderco ball bearing lock, and the opening mechanism is the Spidey hole. So, good to use for gloves, or if you just like to give the flick there. Pocket clip is reversible, tip up only, but the way the ball bearing lock is and the pocket clip, this knife is fully ambidextrous. So lefties, you're in luck here. We'll do a quick size comparison. Get you with the Paramilitary 2. The pair is a little bit bigger. Do Spyderco Delica, a little bit smaller of a knife, but not by a whole lot, size-wise at least, or length. Then we'll do ZT450, which is pretty darn close. So I want to talk about the ergonomics of this knife first. Personally, I'm a huge fan of the ergonomics. The way that the handle is shaped, your fingers just fall right into the right spot. It's almost like they, built it from the handle out. It really feels good when you're using it. There's no real hot spots. You get a real good grip on the knife. That's partially due also to the jimping that they put on this. Right here on the thumb ramp, it's just exceptional grip. The jimping is not, overbearing. It's not, too aggressive, but it gives you a real positive grip. Same thing with the finger choil. It does have that front finger choil, so you can choke up on the blade if you'd like. I personally think it feels a little weird. I prefer, just the normal, but if you need to get up there and do some precise cutting, that option is available for you. Next, we'll talk about the lock. Spyderco ball bearing lock. I've only heard it's supposed to be a pretty strong lock. That's what I hear. I get, no blade play side to side or up and down on this guy. Never have. And it's, pretty smooth, but that's, mostly due to me really putting a lot of pocket time on this over the few years I've had it. One thing I will say about the ball bearing lock here is it's not super easy to disengage. It's a pretty stiff spring in there. So if you're a Benchmade guy and you're really used to that axis lock, it's going to be different. It's a totally different feel. I've heard of guys going in there and swapping out the spring for a less stiff to kind of give it that more axis lock feel. But I never really wanted to mess with that. Action on the knife is great. When I first got the knife, it was good, but the more that I used it, it's running on phosphor bronze washers, which I'm a fan of. I do enjoy my flippers that run on bearings, but it's hard to beat a good pair of phosphor bronze bushings that are really well broken in, and this is a great example of it. once you fully disengage that lock, it really just, falls down into place. And I have no blade play on this. So that's great. It's one of the other reasons that I really enjoy this knife is the real smooth action on it, and no blade play. That's one of my pet peeves is blade play and blade centering. Let's move on to the looks. I do love the aesthetic of this knife. It's really straightforward. I'm a big fan of that, kind of leaf style blade. And with the full flat grind, it really, I really like the look of it. One area that I think they could have improved a little bit is, this kind of jimping back here and on the front. I honestly, I don't really know why they decided to go this route. I'm assuming it's for grip, but in my experience, that didn't really offer any additional grip that wasn't there before. I don't know why they didn't just, I feel like it would have been a cleaner aesthetic if they just gone plain, just all the way through, with the exception of this obvious jimping up here, but that's just me. Other thing that maybe went noticed, maybe not, this knife has got a sharpening choil. That's because I added it secondhand. You'll see this a lot with knives like the Para 2, where that grind just goes all the way back. And in this case, it's both not sharpened all the way back and is uneven. That's kind of an ugly thing that Spyderco does. I can't understand why they make that choice. I don't think it would cost that much more in manufacturing if they decided to just, throw a sharpening choil in on there and just solve that problem. But for whatever reason, they decide to not go that route. But it is what it is. It's not just a Manix thing. That's just a Spyderco thing. But this knife falls victim to that as well. Let's get into pros and cons of the knife. Pros, it's beefy. I mean, we're getting back to that 4.9 ounces. This is a beefy knife. Sometimes you'll get that big knife in your pocket and you flip it open and you're like, oh wow, this doesn't really feel like a 5.5 ounce or 6 ounce knife. This thing, you feel it. You feel every ounce of this knife. Personally, I don't really care that much about that, but you will notice it. If you're a big proponent of the weight on these knives, then yeah, you're probably going to want to just pass on this, even with all of the positive that this comes with. The other things, like I had already mentioned, the lack of the sharpening choil, and then kind of this funky extra jimping here. The things that I do like about the knife is the blade steel. I am a huge fan of the CPM S30V. I'm particularly a fan of how Spyderco does it. I feel like they kind of nailed the heat treat on this, and I love the corrosion resistance also. I've sweat on this knife quite a bit, and I think it's partially due to the correct treatment of the S30V, but also on this particular knife, I don't know if you guys will really pick that up. It's not like the standard satin grind finish that you see. This is more of like a matte satin finish. It's really nice. My dad has a Manix too, also, that does have that flat or the satin grind finish, and this one has the that flat matte finish. I personally am a fan of this better, and I think the success that I've had with corrosion resistance is partially due to this finish in particular. So that's something that I do thoroughly enjoy. Other things I enjoy about the knife is the ball bearing lock. Although it's hard to disengage, I wouldn't say hard, but it's not, something you're just gonna, sit on your couch and just play with, for hours on end. It is very secure though. I will say that the knife feels very secure. There is not a hint of blade play on this, up, down, side to side. I've never outright abused the knife to really test out the strength of the lock, but in all my use, it has been, more than enough. Just like in most cases for the knives, any locking knife. All that being said, the price on this guy, I checked Blade HQ. I want to say at the time of this video being posted, it was about $115 to $116. It's getting a little up there now. I want to say 3 or 4 years back when I originally purchased this particular knife, I got it under $100. I want to say I got it maybe $95 from Blade HQ. For that price point, it is an absolute killer deal. Even at the $115, I feel like it's still a good buy. But once you start getting up to that range, there's a lot of other things that can kind of creep up and give it a good run for its money. But yeah, it's kind of hard to pass this up. This has kind of become like a more iconic, knife design or, knife model, kind of like the Paramilitary 2 or the Benchmade 940. It's just one of those hallmark designs that has become, well known and well respected in the community. I don't have enough good things to say about it. I love it. I've put so much use on this knife that maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I'm not afraid to point out the issues that it has, like the weight. That's I would say the main glaring issue and the biggest takeaway to this if you're on the fence if you want to buy one or not. Everything else is great. It's perfect EDC knife. It's, I would say, even crossing that threshold into hard use, just because of how beefy and tanky it is. If you want something a little bit lighter, you can always check out the Manix lightweight. I mean, they do offer that model, so I guess that's kind of their remedy to that issue. But still, I feel like with those liners are not skeletonized. They could have shaved off some weight on this, and for whatever reason chose not to. Maybe because they knew they were making a lightweight or whatever the reason is. They decided to forego, any weight reduction measures on this knife, which is fine for me. Like I said, personally, doesn't really bother me at all. But for those of you who do care about that kind of thing, keep that in mind. Otherwise, this is just a fantastic knife. I have very much enjoyed it over the years, and if you guys are looking to get one, or if it's been on your radar, just get it. Just get it, and you will not regret picking one up. I can pretty much guarantee you that. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. This is my first review on YouTube, so if you guys have any suggestions or ideas on how I can make this whole thing better, please let me know. Whether that's leaving a comment, shooting me a quick message, please do, because I appreciate any and all feedback. Please subscribe if you guys are interested in keeping up with everything I have coming out and everything I have to say. It really helps me out a lot and makes me want to continue to do this. And I want to be here to stay. So, again, thank you guys for watching and stopping by. We'll get you guys on the next one. Thanks.